In today's video, we're going to present you the Anderson MERGEPRO hay merger that come in two different models, the 915 and the 1060, which work exactly the same. Just be aware, we want you to read the operator's manual, as there is a lot more information than what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So there's just quick few easy steps to go and before you can be ready to go in the field and start enjoying this wonderful machine. So first step, you're going to have to hook the merger to your tractor using those lift arm on the back. So they're compatible with category 2 or 3 lift arm hitch. Once you have it hooked up, the most important is you want your PTO shaft to be as level as possible. If you have a too big of an angle in it, it's going to wear out the joint prematurely. So that's the first setup you have to do. The second step will be to hook on the hydraulics. So the MERGEPRO 915 and 1060 come with 2 sets of hydraulic as a standard. So really easy. You're gonna have 1 set of hydraulic to control the left wings of the MERGEPRO, and the second set of hydraulic will be controlling the right wings of the MERGEPRO. The MERGEPRO, it's a self-contained unit. So the drawbar itself, it's basically the oil reservoir. So the variable pump located right behind the attachment over here, basically it's will take its oil out of the tank. So before you start running the PTO, you have to make sure that this valve is open like this, so the pump will be able to get its oil supply from the tank. So that's quite important to check, and you always leave it open. But just when you receive it for the first time, make sure it is not in closed position to not damage the pump if the pump is running out of oil. The flotation of the MERGEPRO pickup head relied on 3 really large skid shoes. So the skid shoes has a really big surface area to make sure there's no excessive ground pressure onto the plant or the crop. So they are swiveling, so basically they will follow the ground nicely. There's 2 settings. So if you look at the operator's manual, the top bolt, there's only 1 position to put it there, but the bottom bolt, there's 2 positions you can put it on. So if you put the bolt on the upper hole like it is right now, the skid shoes are going to be really short. So that means your overall pickup head is going to be floating above the ground closer. If you are working in a really rocky situation where you have a lot of stones and so on, and you would like the pickup head to stand a little bit higher off the ground, then you can remove this bolt and put it on the hole right underneath, and that's going to make your skid shoes taller. So basically your pickup head is going to be higher off the ground. But we recommend using that configuration, and all skid shoes need to be adjusted as well. You will notice that the central skid shoes is going to be sinking a little bit higher into the head versus the 2 lateral skid shoes, which are designed to stand a little bit deeper. So the skid shoes will only touch in some specific condition, but otherwise it's only the 2 lateral skid shoes that's going to make your ground contour perfectly. So now that you just unfold your merger to the ground, you have to check that your wind guard, which is basically that device above the pickup, it's properly adjusted. A lot of people underestimate the importance to adjust it properly, and make a hell of a difference when you're going into the field in different crop. So first thing, once you unfold the machine, you have to unlock the wind guard by pulling on this tab over here, and then you can flip this device over, and you have to do that, of course, on both sides of the wind guard like this, and that's basically going to let your wind guard floating up and down, right? So that's the purpose of it. When you go back into transport mode, you want to lock it. So in this way, when the both wings are folded into transport, no, they are not moving, so they won't be bouncing left to right. So just make sure to unlock that before you start merging hay into the field. Of course, if you're doing only short distance, you're moving from one field to the other, just crossing a fence, you don't have to lock it. But if you are going on a long distance on the road, it is preferred to lock them and unlock it only once at the field. As you would notice here, so the wind guard, and it's really well explained in the operator's manual, it has to be set up as shown here. So don't pay attention right now, but look at your books. Make sure once you receive your machine from the dealership that this has been set up properly. And then the most important part will be that spring system over here. So the spring is designed basically to make the wind guard lighter, because the wind guard itself probably weighs 250 pounds. And we want it to be light, so when there's a heavy crop going in between the wind guard and the pickup, the wind guard will float on top of it. So there's two settings. The first one, it is what we call the mechanical stopper. So inside the spring, there is a nut. So if you want to adjust it, you're gonna have to remove this one and remove the spring. And then what this nut inside does is basically it will control the gap between the wind guard and the tine. So we're looking at about 2-inch gap, 2.5-inch gap at the end of the tine versus the inner side of the wind guard. If the gap is too tight, eventually the tine might touch the wind guard. If the gap is too big, you're gonna be losing a crop projection over the belt. So that gap needs to be about 2-inch, 2.5 inches, no more. So this could be adjusted with the nut that is inside. So if your wind guard is too close, you're gonna screw that nut, and then the wind guard is gonna raise away from the pickup. Once you have both sides adjusted the same, you can put the spring back in with the washer, and then you're gonna screw that nut. And the tighter you compress the spring, the more light the wind guard is gonna be. So basically we're looking at the end result. So the wind guard should be no more than 50, 60 pounds. If it is heavier than that, the problem is eventually that the pickup's gonna be running out of power in a really extreme condition, and you might have some blockage. So keeping the wind guard as light as possible will make the machine working in every environment. The MERGEPRO 915 and 1060 model are both equipped with 2 pickup heads, so 2 belts. Belts are like chain. When they are brand new at the early beginning, they're gonna start to stretch out really, really quick until they stabilize. So it is really important at the early beginning, like in the next first days, few hours, to look at how stretched your belt is. So here we have what we call the belt tensioner. So the belt tensioner, it is equipped with a spring system. So as the belt's gonna start to stretch out, this red washer over here is gonna move further away from the indicator, which is a laser cutted slice into that middle bracket. And if you want to put the proper tension on your belt, you need to adjust with these nuts. You have to compress the spring until the washer get back in line with that groove over here. So you have to pay attention to that, especially in the first 10 to 40 hours. After that, you can look at it maybe once a week and maybe not every day. But like every new piece of equipment, it is normal that this belt's gonna stretch quicker at the early beginning. So pay careful attention to that. So before you put the machine into operation, you're gonna have to check the distance from the tine to the ground. It is quite important. It is like any other forage equipment. If your tine is set too low, you will either collect forage material or break tines. And if it is too high, eventually you're gonna leave crop on the ground. So in order to adjust the tine, we're gonna go to the back of the MERGEPRO. So on each pickup head, we have what we call a turnbuckle. And the turnbuckle, basically, as you extend the turnbuckle, the pickup head's gonna flip forward, bringing the tines closer to the ground. So in order to adjust the turnbuckle, you have to remove this locking mechanism that prevents the turnbuckle from going out of adjustment during operation. And then if I extend it, you will notice that the pickup head is moving forward, and therefore my tines are getting closer to the ground. So what we're trying to achieve there, we want the tine, the end of the tine to be just slightly below the stubble and not too close to the ground to not collect forage materials. And on top here, we have a decal with some degrees for references. So if your skid shoes are all the way up underneath the pickup, that means your pickup is sitting closer to the ground. We're gonna be working with a 5 degrees angle. So right now I'm gonna be at 5 degrees. If you extend your skid shoes because let's say you're picking up straw and you have a lot of stone and so on, you're gonna extend the skid shoes, and so the pickup head is gonna stand higher above the ground. Therefore, you're gonna have to tilt the pickup head forward further for the tine to reach the desired height. So when the skid shoes are extended out, then we're going to be working with roughly 7 degrees angle. If the skid shoes are all the way up, about 5 degrees. So once you have finished adjusting it, you're going to keep this bar horizontal, and then you can lock it back in place like this. And then this way your turnbuckle is not getting out of adjustment while operating. The Anderson MERGEPRO is equipped with a hydraulic suspension system to control how much weight the skid shoes will apply to the ground. So from the factory setting, you will see on the back here, there's a hydraulic gauge. You should basically read 1100 PSI pressure on the gauge if you have a MERGEPRO 915, or about 1250 PSI if you have a MERGEPRO 1060. So when you follow these, if you keep the setting from the factory, the ground pressure will be less than 1 psi, which is basically less than a human walking barefoot in the field. If you're not happy with the setting, you can make the head heavier or lighter, depending of your wishes. And in order to do that, you have to remove this small cap right here, right behind, under which you're going to find a Allen key. So if you turn the Allen key clockwise, you're going to increase the pressure. If you increase the pressure, you will reduce the ground weight of the skid shoes. And the way it works is, underneath we have these two big swing arms that travel all the way to the front of the pickup. And if you imagine this pivot point like my elbow, and my forearm is the support arm of the pickup, the more pressure you apply on this gauge, the more pulling action the cylinder will lift this arm, and the less weight you will have on the ground. If you reduce the pressure, we will let the support arm releasing to the ground, and then you will have more compaction, and this is what we're trying to avoid. So you can double check that once you receive the machine, make sure the setting is right, and as you work throughout the season, and then you can adjust it and make it even lighter if you want. So now that we have done all the mechanical setting on the MERGEPRO, now it's time to take a look at the display that we have here. So it's a small display. It's no touchscreen, so it has to be controlled with the button. And so if you look at the wiring harness, we have a kill switch over here. So I'm going to turn that on. The screen is going to open as well. There we go. So this is what the screen looks like. So before I go into too much detail about how that main screen works, let's go into the menu. So the way you have to look at it is, when you look at the pictogram, you have to go straight down to find which button matches. So if I want to go into the menu, this is the central button. I'm going to click on enter, and then I can use this central cursor to move up and down and change some setting. So as your first experience with the merger, the first thing we're going to be doing, we will go into the display setting. And in display setting, per default, it will be in kilometer per hour. But like if you're living in the US, you want to move it to miles per hour. So, and therefore to use the plus minus to change that parameters, you're going to have to use the left and right arrow. So if I use the right arrow, now I'm in miles per hour. Same thing for the temperature. The temperature, it is for the oil temperature in the oil reservoir, so you can change it to Fahrenheit. Pressure unit, so that is the hydraulic pressure of the MERGEPRO. So you can have PSI or bar, depending if you're living in Europe. And then same thing for language. You can have it in French or English, and so on. So that's what's important to know about this display setting. If you want to get out of that sub-menu we just got in, we have to use that little door over here, so don't try to click on it. This is just a screen, so we have to go straight down. That will be that button. So I'm stepping back one notch into the menu. Let's go into the machine setting. In the machine setting, the first thing we will see on top is the oil cooler activation. So right now it is enabled, so the cooling system will work when, so this is the temperature the oil must reach before the cooling system kick in. So it is set at 50 degrees Celsius. If you want to adjust it, again, you're going to use the cursor left and right to change that parameters. For the cooling system cycle time, it is for how long it will run before doing a reverse of the fan. So let's say I set it for 30 minutes. So the cooling system will work for 30 minutes. And every 30 minutes, it will flip the fan rotation during 30 seconds to make sure it blow all the leaves and air that could have been caught up in it. The 3 miles per hour, basically when the cooling system kick in and you're driving across the field, when it kicks in, there will be a really short drop in voltage into the entire system. And when that occurs, basically the spool of the valve will change their position, and the pickup and belt would also change their speed when the cooling system is engaged. So you want to keep that oil cooling max speed not too high, so 3 miles per hour or 5 or 6 kilometers per hour is good. And what it does is, let's say you reach 50 degrees Celsius and you're traveling across the field, you don't want the voltage to drop because you want to pick up and belt to turn at the same time consistently. So it will only kick in the cooling system when you turn on the headland and you reach less than 3 miles or less than 5-6 kilometers per hour. This is when it's going to kick in the cooling system, because anyway, most likely your pickup head is going to be above the ground and you're going to be turning around for the next pass. We have the SWAT deflector activation on the machine that we're showing you today. We don't have it, but basically it is an hydraulic SWAT board that you can unfold and fold to control the width of the SWAT you're doing. So it is disabled. If you want to activate it, we'll have to just click sideways to change the status. We also have the conveyor stop function. It is an option. So for some instance, some farmers, they would like, let's say you have a really wet spot in the field and you don't want the chopper to go in that spot because you know they're going to be leaving severe mark into the ground. So with the MERGEPRO, you can basically stop the belt and keep the pickup running. So therefore you will simply just collect and build up material onto the belt, and then you can start the belt later on and release that grass that you just collect in a drier spot, so the chopper won't have to go in that wet spot. So that function is not on that machine, but it is something that could be added on after the fact. The last feature will be a delay in second, during which the conveyor is going to keep running after you start lifting the heads off the ground. So when you reach the headlands and you lift the pickup heads up, if you set it at 0 seconds, as soon as your pickup heads are off the ground, the belt stops. But you can say, I want my belt to keep running for 3 seconds if you want to have your belt clean and nice. So that could be changed from that machine setting menu. So I'll go back over here. So we also have built into the display a maintenance chart, because we know not everybody is looking at the operator's manual, which I strongly recommend to do so. But in the operator's manual, we have a maintenance chart of everything you need to check on the merger, about the greasing schedules and the belt tension inspection and the wheels nut inspection. And as you're busy, we include that into the program. So as you're going to be working and running with the machine, at some point the machine is going to warn you that you need to do some maintenance on it. So there will be a pictogram showing up on the home page of the computer. And if you go in the maintenance chart, you will see how many hours left before you do that setup. Let's say, for example, I have to check the belt tension. Once you have double check it and make sure it is as per recommendation from the operator's manual, you can just hold the central button for 2 seconds, and then a green check mark is going to appear, and that's going to reset in which and how many hours you will have to look at it again. So nice and easy. The last two things you have to look in the menu will be your minimum speed. So right now it is set at 6 miles per hour. The minimum you could go is about 4 miles per hour. You can have it really high, but which I strongly not recommend. The minimum speed is when you're, let's say if you're driving really slow in the field because it is bumpy, or for some reason you're crossing a pivot track in the field. That's the minimum speed your pickup is going to keep running, even if you're driving less than that. As you're going to be driving faster than that, then your pickup is going to keep up proportionally with your ground speed, which I'm going to explain really soon. We have two modes for the pickup speed and the belt speed. We have the manual mode and we have the automatic mode. The manual mode, if I go back to the home pages, I'll leave it here to manual. I go back to home. Then I have a manual speed of 8 miles per hour. What does that mean? 8 miles per hour in manual speed means the speed at the end of the tines will be 8 miles per hour. So that will be like every other merger in the market that don't have a variable displacement pump. Their pickup is consistently turning at the same speed, and then they're having issues depending if you're switching from long crop to short crop and so on. That's the major feature of the MERGEPRO is the pickup and the belt speed is variable according to your ground speed. So when you put it in automatic mode, then you will see a percentage on the top right corner. That percentage represents the speed of your pickup versus your ground speed. So if you have it set at 100% and you're driving 8 miles per hour, your pickup is going to be turning 8 miles per hour. If you're driving 12 miles per hour, your pickup is also turning 12 miles per hour. And that is key because when you're harvesting long crop or really short crop, you're going to have to play with that. And this is what makes this machine fantastic. It will handle any kind of crop without any hassle, without having to stepping out and unplug the machine like others will do. So the rule of thumb is if you're doing really long crop, you're going to try to keep your gain speed in between 105, 110%, no more. If you're doing really short crop, then you're going to raise that gain up to 140%, maybe 150, depending what you wish. The major point is you want to see this nice crop projection from the pickup to the belt, and you want to see that curtain of grass consistently feeding the belt. So to adjust the gain up and down, as you could see, I was just using the up and down arrow, and this is what you need to keep in mind. So the other feature that we have available on the side of the screen, we're going to have our PTO speed. So we are monitoring the PTO speed, and we're also monitoring the ground speed. So we have a sensor at the PTO, we have a sensor on one of the wheels of the merger. And with these two input information to the computer, this is how the computers know at what speed the pickup should turn to make sure you're efficient while you're driving around the field. We're going to have the oil temperature right over here. Right below we have the battery voltage. And at the bottom, we're going to have the hydraulic pressure into this system. So the hydraulic pressure, as you could see, it is a green background. And the maximum pressure will be about 3000 psi or 200 bar. As you get closer to the maximum pressure, the background is going to change from green to orange to red. And when it starts to be red, it means, okay, don't push the machine too far, don't go faster. Because at some point, if you exceed the max pressure, the machine will stop. But that's a nice visual indication to let you know if the machine can take more. And sometimes people, they're driving 10 kilometers per hour, or 8 miles, 6 miles an hour, and people are pleased with it, thinking the machine, if they go further, it would be an issue. But if you're only running at 60% of the hydraulic pressure capacity, you just give it a go. It is one of the most powerful on the market. So now I will explain the bottom indicator over here. So as I said before, we only need 2 sets of hydraulics connected to the tractor. One set control the left wings or the left pickup heads. The second set control the right pickup heads. And so by default, when you turn the screen on, you'll see this pictogram with these 2 pickup heads like in an angle. So that means if I run the hydraulic from the tractor, I'm going to be unfolding the MERGEPRO. If I want to spread the pickup head apart, I will have to click on the button right below. And what's going to happen is these 2 pictograms going to flip. And then now I will not be controlling the folding unfolding action. I will be controlling the extension of the pickup head apart from each other by using the same remote. So what does this button do is basically just engage an electric selector valve that shoot the hydraulic oil to a different cylinder on the merger. If you want to change the belt direction, then this pictogram over here, basically, if I click there, you're going to see the arrow changing position. And then from the cab on the go, you can simply click on each belt one after the other to change in which direction you want to send your crop. Or if you want to switch both belts completely the opposite way around of where they were, then you can use this double arrow button right here. And if I click on that, both belts going to be switching the complete opposite direction. This one over here, which is the home button, will be turning the lights on and off on the merger. And then the most important will be this one here. This is a play button. So basically when you kick in your PTO and you raise your tractor RPM, your PTO RPM is gonna raise up here on the screen. And then you have pressure in the system, and when you click on play, the pickup and belt's going to start turning. So when you reach the end of the field, you can stop the machine, but technically the machine will stop automatically based on the setting you have configured into your display. So really simple. There are 6 sensors or 8 sensors. Yeah, 8 sensors total on the MERGEPRO. And there's indicators in the back. So when you see those green dots, that means the sensor is actually reading steels. If they are black, that means they're not using, they don't have received any signal at all. So this is it, really simple. And it might sound a bit complicated at the beginning, but in real life, you were just clicking on the play pause button, going up and down once your basic setting is set up already. So the first thing we have to do when we turn the computer on, we're gonna have to unfold it. So right now, the hydraulic is going for the folding and unfolding cylinder. So if I run the hydraulic from the tractor and I lower the pickup head to the ground, the background of the screen is going to change to reflect what's going on behind. So we're just going to wait for a second. There we go. I got 1 heads down, 2 heads down. Okay, so the next step after that, if I use this button over here, I'm going to be flipping the, engaging the electric selector valve. And now I'm going to be able to spread the heads apart by running the same hydraulics in and out, depending on the configuration you want to do in your field, right? So the next step, I'm going to engage the PTO speed. So we're going to see our PTO speed here is ramping up. Going to increase the speed a little bit, like this. And then if I click on the play button over here, then that's going to start bolt belt. So bolt belts are moving toward the right side. So if I want, I can change the belt direction by clicking on this button here. And that's going to flip this belt only. I can do the same here. I can say, okay, I want to flip that belt. I click, and then the other belt as well is going the other way around. If you want to move both belts at the same time, instead of doing 2 clicks on the screen, you can use the double arrow. And by clicking on that, both belts are moving the other way around completely.